those who would he's among those who might answer the question by saying don't. um, you know, use it to generate ideas perhaps, but don't use it to be your ghost writer unless you buy a package like this, learn great copywriting frameworks, and know the difference between good copywriting and shit, because the AI is going to spit out a lot of shit. And if you can't tell the difference, AI is going to burn you. And better yet, if you learn these frameworks and then train your AI to evaluate your copy or rough draft your copy using a framework that you trust and believe in and that's your kind of go-to framework, you're going to at least get better outcomes and starting points than if you just sign on to ChatGPT and say, I want to write a long form sales letter on topic X.
Also, if I can chime in, John, doing this bundle thing, I was thinking about that when I woke up today. I was thinking about your bundle. How about that? Don't take that to mean anything more than it is. Um, you're putting in diverse attitudes and opinions, especially on something like AI. It's like I'm not going to agree with some other guys are not going to agree, and that's a good way to do it. That's what all smart people do, and you're making this a shortcut for people. They can get this bundle and see all kinds of different attitudes, opinions, experiences, results, things like that, not on all subjects. So it's really brilliant to provide not just different content makers, but different content makers who may fight if they were put together in a room, in talking about a subject. So, out in the real world, it's kind of hard to get that kind of, um, exposure to different ideas and stuff. And ultimately, marketers all agree that eventually there will be a best practices for AI like there is for everything. Um, like John, like you guys do with email and stuff. You guys came into a world where it was a forest with uncut trees and no paths and stuff, and you guys found a path, and that path, if it worked, you eventually found a path that worked after stumbling for a bit. And then that became best practices. So now it's kind of codified. And I've watched the entire web do that for, since the dawn of the web being a viable marketing vehicle. It's just certain people find things like launch theory and things like that. And if it works, it starts to become the main thing that people do, and then people build on it. And it becomes this monolith of how to do it. And I think that's really good because it shortcuts things for a lot of people. Every time you want to launch something, you don't have to make it up from scratch or try to figure it out. You can find out how it does. But it also gives an opportunity for the iconoclasts out there, the rebels, who just want to try something else. So it gives you something to fight against. They did it this way. We're going to go this way. And that's how stuff just, it's like in runs and, diving up the middle and trying to create a fortress where nothing else advances beyond this, going around that. And all that. That's how really, really good marketing starts to happen. And we're in a position we're getting to watch it right now, so it's kind of cool, and we can influence it. I was able to influence some of the online stuff. I was one of the first guys to have a B of A offered an online merchant account, and that's where I went, okay, that's it. The web is now absolutely a viable option for any marketer, because before the online merchant accounts were there, you had to get people offline to be able to pay. They'd send you a check, even though they saw their stuff on a website. It was really medieval. And, so again, these bundles, you're going to get to see a snapshot in time of the best practices that people are using to do stuff, or how people are teaching other people to do stuff. I think that's a huge advantage for anyone.
Jason, what do you
Yeah, I
reckon?
mean, what's interesting to piggyback off of what John was just saying. I mean,
I I never classify myself as a copywriter at all.
As a
um,
what, Jason?
as a copywriter, I am a data guy. I'm a developer at heart, trainer, trained developer, and I'm an automation expert. I've specialized more on the segmentation side of things and helping people find their subscriber to customer journey, right? And so for me, being included in a bundle such as this, where there are brilliant copywriters, I'm like, I feel like I'm the small potatoes guy where I'm like, oh, I can help each of these frameworks in a way to help people who buy this bundle figure out which framework works well for them and then layer on top of that with segmentation, with
Hmm.
personalization, with really talking and echoing back what the subscriber says to us as email list owners or as buyers of the bundle. And as you start to write emails to get to the level of like, hey, what are their desires? Why are they on this list in the first place? What do they hope to get from you, both in the immediate and long term, right? Because whether it's like they want to write more emails, that could be today's goal. But why do they want to write more emails? Well, because they want to, you know, travel the world, right? Go to
Hmm.
Peru, visit John, like, or they want to spend time like myself. I want to spend time with my young two sons and wife and not sitting in a cube somewhere, working on the screen, right? And so those messages that we can send in those emails are very different. And I like to do that programmatically at scale using certain best practices and strategies. And, as John said, is like having varying different opinions or frameworks or best practices as part of this bundle, and then you kind of say, okay, you know what, I like John's stuff and I like Tom's stuff, and so on and so forth. You can kind of extract that information, learn, see what they do, and then say, okay, well, how do I layer on my audience's personality on top of that? And that's kind of what I do. And I feel privileged to be a part of this bundle. When John invited, I was like, okay, uh, I'm not one of the best copywriters in the world. I studied it. I try to do my best. I mean, I had a college professor give me a D minus on a term paper saying, "Is English your second language?" Like, I mean, it wasn't my strength is writing. And I've learned over the last 8+ years how to do some of the good things in copywriting and make it my own. Um, but for me, my strength comes in from understanding human. I minored in psychology, so human behavior has always been an interest of mine. And I kind of like, hey, the inbox is a very personal space. And so if we can, to quote a business mentor of mine, the vibe, your vibe attracts your tribe. Like
Hmm.
it's like if I can talk the right language to the right person at the right time, then I'll be able to get them to buy. I'll be able to get them to click. I'll be able to get them to reply. And so for me, I love being a part of this. I'm not really ever included or jump into doing bundles. Um, but this was like a no brainer for me because I was like, okay, the 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 value of it is extraordinary, and I know people are going to see that. And if I'm a small part of that and help people implement this to be able to then accelerate and do great things, um, you know no brainer for me.
Jason, let me boost you on that. Guys like you, data guys, were essential in the mix back in the direct mail and direct response days. They included list brokers, strategists, things like that. It's like the writer could go off and write the stuff and be persuasive and have a bitchin' piece that could go out. But if they, a well-written, excellent piece to the wrong list will fail. Whereas a low-level piece to a super hot list can do really well. So finding those hot lists were the greatest things. The idea of buying a list or renting a list is archaic now. So now it's channeling your way through the email lists and the available audiences, the tribes that have gathered somewhere and finding that. That's a skill all in itself, and writers alone don't know how to do that. That's why when they work for clients, the client is responsible for finding who usually who the list is they're going to go. So your input and your status among this, I actually would have imagined there'd be a lot more guys like you doing, embracing that role in the last 10 or 15 years, but it hasn't happened. So you're fulfilling a vital role that has always been there in direct response advertising. So.
Yeah, I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Yep. Now, I wanted to jump on something Jason said. I appreciated the fact that he said that he doesn't consider himself a copywriter. I think there's some other people on the list, same thing. I certainly don't put myself on the list of, John Carlton and McIntyre and Throstle and so on and so forth. But I also think that you, Jason, and I are copywriters, and everybody who is perhaps interested in this bundle is as well. I got an email from one of the people on my list that, well, I'm not a copywriter. Should I buy this bundle? And I shared with him, the old thing, I think it was Kennedy, Dan Kennedy used to say, you're not a plumber, you're a marketer who promotes plumbing services. You're not a lawyer, you're a marketer who promotes legal services. And you have to think about that. Fill in copywriter for the same thing. You're a copywriter writing copy about your legal services or your stuff. So everybody who's on this call, this is not about training you necessarily. There are some products in this bundle that are all about how to position yourself as a professional copywriter. But every single one of us, if we're trying to build a business, we're writing copy every single day, and and we have to learn how to write it in the ways that you were talking about, connecting with the true passion and purpose and transformation that our clients seek, and that's a job that social posts, emails, videos, all of it does, and you don't have to be a professional copywriter to need to focus on that.
John, do you want us to respond to these questions? Or are you gonna
I
handle?
mean, I'm sort of in two minds about it. What we're talking about, I'm like, well, there's value in this
Uh,
conversation, and then there's questions, and some of the questions are hyper specific. I think one question, I don't know if people have asked it yet. We've kind of touched on it, but I'm going to ask it because I think everyone, it's sort of on everyone's mind. Is with all this AI stuff, what is the likelihood that copywriting will even be needed? The copywriters, especially, or copywriting is even going to be relevant tomorrow, or next week, or next year? Um, what do you guys have to say about
Can I
that?
can I pop in first, guys? Or so I don't.
mhm.
I'm old and I'll lose the idea if I don't say it right away. I've been telling writers, the lower level writers, the kind of rookie status stuff, writing emails like, "Hey, your bill is due tomorrow," things like that. AI can probably handle some of that stuff. That's the lower stuff. So where the scale, the hierarchy of writers used to be like this, now it's like this. So that AI can handle this bottom stuff. So AI is copywriting. That's fine. There's no problem with it. The next little bit will be AI can take you 80 or 90% of the way, and then you need a human to get in there and make sure that it's meeting all of, ticking off all the boxes that you want to accomplish with whatever you're writing. And the rest of it, then you're getting in the top hierarchy of the writing world. And I've talked about A-list writers. When I started out, there were probably a dozen of what I would call the A-list writers, the guys you could pretty much guarantee could write a winning piece for you. And this is back in the 1980s, 1990s. Now the web has been here for a generation, it's chewed everything up. There's still only a dozen or so top writers who have these chops. The names change as the other generation leaves or dies off. But the top writers are still going to be the ones that are going to cost you a lot to hire, are going to be doing their own stuff a lot. But the thing that I've noticed about those top writers, and I was in that group for decades, is they're really consultants who can also provide the copy. So if you look at yourself like that, like you have business experience, you have life experience, you've been through the mill, you've been around the block, you've lived through blunders, learned your lesson. Then you're in a position to, you've had businesses fail on you, clients fail. You've seen all of the foibles that clients can do. I have list of rules. Like the second list of entrepreneurial rules for me is that when you encounter an entrepreneur who has an idea, takes that idea to market, and it really does well, his next step is to screw it up by complicating the hell out of the whole process. So he has a simple, elegant idea and it sells, and then he says, "Well, let's add layers. Let's add," and he starts hiring people, and then that screws it up. And the third thing that goes wrong with entrepreneurs is they think, "Oh, I was successful there. I can be successful in everything I do. So let's take the stupidest next project I can think of and go out there and lose all the money I made on the first." I've seen this happen over and over and over again, even when you warn them. But that comes from experience. So an experienced writer can sit down with a business person and actually help them kind of map out a business plan for the next 6 months, a year, whatever time period you want to talk about. And then when there's stuff to be written, that person can provide the writing, tell them how to write it, can honcho AI to do the writing. He can take them wherever they need to go. So you're not just a writer, just showing them and say, "Hey, have Pin will write." It's that's not going to cut it so much anymore when AI can take care of a lot of that or take you 90% of the way there. So knowing business, Jason mentioned, having a psychology minor. I majored in psychology back, I graduated in 1974, back when they were still torturing rhesus monkeys and having really dumb ideas about cigars. And but I've paid attention to it, and you don't need to go and get a degree in psychology, but you do need to pay attention to pop psychology, and that's the really good stuff. That's where you can hop onto Reddit and read "Am I the Asshole?" Read all the comments on that one. That's one of my favorite Reddits. I read it every day, and or read the advice columns that used to be in newspapers. So that's all pop psychology. That's people calling in or writing in with a specific problem to them, and then in the case of advice columnists, they will give them the answer based on their experience, on their knowledge of how social interaction works, things like that. Or if they go to a place like Reddit, then the internet chimes in, and eventually a consensus comes out that, yeah, you were the asshole at the wedding. You
Yep.
embarrassed your sister-in-law, or yeah, you're not the, or everybody sucks here is one thing. But they will come up with a single answer or a nuanced single answer. And that's really, really valuable to understand. Because when you do this stuff, go over and look at those sites and read the questions, especially on "Am I the Asshole?" Read the question and then come up with your own answer before diving into the comments. And that starts to get your mind thinking about, how do I solve problems? So
Yep.
a top writer is now and forever going to be someone who can come in, be a problem solver, understand what you're going through, solve the easy stuff, tell you where to look for other stuff. One of the biggest things that happened to me was when the iPhone came out and everybody had just gotten online. They had their sites online, and they still operated as if everybody was accessing their site from a laptop or a desktop computer. And the iPhone was right there. And it's like, and they'd say, "Yeah, as of 2 months," I was at a John Benson seminar, actually, and somebody chimed in and said, my website abruptly stopped producing results, and it happened about 3 months ago. And he said, "Look at your iPhone, bring up your site." He says, "Well, you don't bring it up on your phone." And I say, "Yeah, most people bring it up, and you bring it up. You can't read it. It's built for a different format than the iPhone." And that was enlightening stuff. So that's the easy stuff. The harder stuff is, where are you losing people if there's sudden trauma in the business where sales are just leaking. There's a leak in your funnel somewhere. So learn, you don't need to necessarily know how to do the programming to make that work, but you need to know to tell somebody, "Look there," make sure the funnel's happening.
Yep.
Make sure, are you mailing to the wrong list? Going back to what Jason was talking about, are you sending really excellent marketing out to people who have no need for what you're trying to sell? Are you, barking down a dry well? I just made that up. Somebody uses it, you owe me money. Um, yeah. So
So,
that's my
John,
thoughts.
you used the word nuance, and My answer for why AI is not going to replace the top copywriters is that AI doesn't do nuance, AI doesn't do imagination. And what you were talking about is really the research. And you go back to Eugene Schwartz and you go back to Gary Halbert and you and all these great copywriters. And what they will demonstrate and what they teach is you're doing the research first. You're going in and you're finding the market and you're understanding what are the building blocks that are going to go into the copy. And the difference between doing, just vacuum suck AI generated research and doing A level copywriter research is spotting the nuance, finding the imaginative angle, seeing things that AI won't see, and those become the differences in the copy. Daniel Throssell tells the story that when he was not Daniel Throssell, I forget that guy even exists. Don't buy on his link. Uh, Ben Settle. Ben Settle tells a story that when he was still a copywriter for hire, he was hired to sell a weight loss product for obese women, and he didn't know a thing about this market, but he dove deep and spent time on Reddit and on online communities and listened to the voices. And one of the stories he told is he went to this one community where this 300 plus pound woman talked about losing her first 75. And then all of her friends began to post on Facebook backbiting her and oh, that dress is ugly or whatever. They were undermining her grand effort to lose the weight, and she was angry and talking about, I'm going to show them. And he ended up writing a sales letter that the angle was, show all those mother effers who don't believe in you that you can do this. It was almost like testosterone fueled vengeance storytelling that sold like crazy to women. And and it was the most successful sales letter he ever wrote, at least for a client. He doesn't do client work anymore. And I would venture to say that AI will never be able to replicate that. It was deep market research. It was understanding nuance, seeing and imagining the possibility and finding the real story underneath the story. AI is built to just suck everything in and deliver back common. It'll do it in nice structure. It'll make it sound pretty, but unless you know what you're doing, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between that, which won't sell, and that, like what I described of Ben's, that sold like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at it from a different angle, I guess. For me, I agree with both of you guys. Copywriters are not going anywhere for the
Yep.
sheer fact that AI can't tell a story, right? Like, you said before, you texted uh, Daniel and it's gonna appear in an email tomorrow, right? Like AI is not gonna do that, right? And so what I look at AI as a straight tool, right? And so in other
Mhm.
words, if you get a great email that is well written, well thought out, deeply researched in the market and everything else, and then when you layer in the bits that I talked about before, if you have them about segmentation, about their desires, about their needs, about their you know who they are, even if it's as basic as man or woman reading the email, you can use AI to kind of create the variance in mere seconds, right? So in
Mhm.
other words, the copywriter, the call to action on a button, rather than join today, if it says, join 75 plumbers and you're a plumber, that's going to resonate with you a lot more than if you're a mom, a dad, you're not in plumbing, right? Or whatever. So you can have this well written, researched, backed, market knowing piece of content layer in the segmentation bit, have the copywriter even give the different variants, maybe call to actions, maybe just the story itself, right? But the lesson and everything else, the pitch is the same, and layer those components into the AI and spit back one email with all the different if thens as a part of it and slam that into your ESP. And then you have this, you could have 57 different versions of that single email, well written by a copywriter who knows what they're doing. And the
Yeah.
AI is just the compute power to, be able to write those if then statements and not break
Hmm.
your email, right? So that's
Right.
kind of how I look at it. I don't think the human's going anywhere because I think humans like to read from other humans. They don't want to
Hmm.
read from a bot. And so that's kind of how I look at where I think at least AI is going to go, or land eventually at, like, how I perceive myself using it anyway. Um, but that's just my thought.
Cool.
Good.
Well, maybe we should get to some of these questions because if I was asking questions, I'd be like, man, when are they going to get to these questions? So if I go back up to, I think the first question was all the way up here. I'd really love to know your opinions regarding long sales letter on a web page. So I guess that's like a traditional long form sales page versus a web, like a well designed web page that contains the same information in the order, but more laid out like a, I guess like a web page. I guess simple what they're saying is like a traditional long form sales page versus like a much more design heavy page that still has similar copy maybe, but it's more design focused. If that makes sense, that's what I'm hearing.
Depends on the quality of the copy for one thing. The old thing we used to say about copy is it needs to be a grease slide. You have to imagine you get the prospect, getting them up on top of the platform to get on the slide is the hard part. You get them up there, they're somewhat interested, they're skeptical, they're still very resistant, and then you kind of push them just enough where they get on the slide. It's grease. They slip, they fall, they go down, and if it's good copy, it takes them all the way down to where they're sitting there with a smoking wallet, wondering what happened to their credit card. And that idea holds no matter what vehicle you're using. People get caught up in the idea that the web is magic still, and AI is magic, and all this stuff. None of it's magic. These are tools made by human beings, and human beings are using them. Or in a capitalist way, human beings are the ones. AI has no wallet to pull out. I mean, so if you're writing the list full of bullets or robots, that's not going to help you very much. But that grease slide theory means that if you are confident that your writing is is able to be that grease slide, if you can get somebody to just open their eyes, sit down, and read your copy, or not sit down, but read it while they're walking, looking on the phone or whatever, that trumps almost everything else because it can be as long as it needs to be. I used to say a good sales piece needs to be as long as a face-to-face salesman needs to speak. It's the same number of words, the same volume of presentation that a live salesman needs to go through to be able to close a face-to-face deal on what you're doing. Now, a lot of people don't have any, especially now, you have no experience with face-to-face uh, sales. You have no idea how retail sales gets done, things like this. So I think studying those guys, the guys who sell furniture, are one of the guys I studied. It was fascinating how furniture is sold, how it's made, how it's marked up, how to sell it. But it's a they were able to codify a certain way of addressing people's furniture needs and then to get after it. When they went to write ads for the newspapers back then, they wound up taking full page ads, not nice little elegant quarter page ads or lines, at the bottom of the page. They took the whole damn page, and sometimes the page after that, or they do a split, a trifold. Um, so yeah, the arguments that people keep trying to come up with against long copy seem to miss the point. If short copy will make the sale, every single top writer will write short copy. But
Hmm.
it's a numbers game. You're going after on a hot list. let's just say it's 100 people or 100,000 people, whatever, you're going after 2% of that. If you sell to 2% or so, that in direct response is considered a win. So that if you get your head straight on this, you're going to have two people that will buy, another eight that will think, well, maybe next time, and you hit them repeatedly and they'll buy after hearing the same pitch a couple of times. And then a whole bunch that are uninterested or just somehow immune to being sold. They don't have the money, they're in a bad place in their life, whatever. So, you're not selling everybody on the list. You're selling particular people. And what do those people need to hear to be able to say, yeah, I'm going with you. Here's my credit card. Let's go. I'm buying. What's next? And yeah, that's my thing. So combining elegance and good design sense with really good, well-crafted copy is the best way to go. If you're going to cut one
Mhm.
thing out of there, I would cut design because it's the old thing of, if I used to say Marilyn Monroe, probably half the people on the scene don't even know who Marilyn Monroe is, but she was one of the first va va voom bombshell actresses. And the thing is, if you got her phone number back in the day, you wouldn't care if it was written in lipstick on a stained bar napkin. So the presentation didn't matter. The words didn't matter. MM, 625, blah, 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 whatever. That wouldn't matter. So, design is nice. Eye relief is nice. I work with designers. I was a graphic designer for a while, designed my own first websites. But when it comes down to it, it's the copy that's going to matter. So
Yeah, 100% agree with John. And I've seen a lot of website firms and designers who will put all their weight behind design. And the reality is that beautiful design will not compensate for crappy copy. If you if and there's a lot of crappy copy out there, and so it always starts with the copy. To John's point, and I'll take it back to AI for just a second because there's a really analogous thing going on in the AI space. You can't go on social media right now if you're in marketing, direct response marketing, without seeing these ads for these AI video engines, and they show the guy running through a erupting volcano, and make yourself look like as if you're in a feature film, and this is the way to get noticed. And you know, the fact of the matter is that that's the design before message thing in just another disguise. And when everybody can press the AI easy button and make themselves look like they are an actor in a blockbuster movie screen, um, then what's going to be the difference between one and another? How are you actually going to stand out? And in the end, you're going to stand out if you write that slippery copy that carries them through the video, the email, the sales letter, whatever the case may be.
Cool. Okay, next question. I'm going to keep this moving just because well, there's a few more questions there. For John Carlton, I've realized many times to prove a point, you use an analogy. You did that before earlier. How do you come up with so many and such good ones? Do you write them first and then constantly edit them, or do they come out without thinking? Is there a trick for doing this?
I do not, I don't even remember the analogy I used. Uh, I do not think of them beforehand. I sometimes get nice little analogies and they stick with me. If I've used them in a speech, say, or use them in a blog post, and they'll occupy a corner of my brain whenever it's needed. They'll pop out. But no, I don't even realize I'm doing it. As far as tricks, yeah, as far as tricks go, it's just the incongruous juxtaposition of two positions makes a good analogy. It's like a blacksmith trying to write copy. That's not very good. So the funnier you can be about this. So really quickly, instead of saying blacksmith, I will come up with, something else, something naughty, dangerous. Um, infamous, notorious, something that has some, doesn't have to be necessarily controversy, but something that, your job as a writer and your job as a marketer is to wake people up. People walk around, they're like somnambulant zombies welded to the couch so firmly that they won't stir to leave a burning house. And you got to convince these people to lean over, take their wallet out and get their credit card and buy something. So that's what I imagine. It's just almost impossible task to get these people to move. And yeah, that whole I wrote that in the book Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets of a Marketing Rebel that people will get in this bundle. I first came up with that analogy of the somnambulant zombie. People laugh at it, but it's really true for a lot of people. They're not thinking, and you got to be the one thing that wakes them up today. The most exciting thing they've read today. It's not they're going through their email box, they're saying, nah, I'm not going to read that. Oh, I'll read that later, or that's something from Aunt Jane. Okay, let's do that. And then something pops out, and then they get in there, and then the first sentence pops, and then the second, and then pretty soon they're again left at the bottom of that grease slide, having done what you asked them to do, either go to a site, make a call, attend a seminar, whatever it is you're requesting as action. Um, and being that thing that wakes them up today, that's the whole key. That takes it into a whole different level. And analogies really do that. If you can take analogies from people's lives so that they say, oh, that makes sense. Whereas your long dissertation on why, whatever point you were trying to prove kind of goes over people's heads, or in one ear, not the other, or just comes up against that zombie invisible surrounding protection cage and just doesn't penetrate at all. So you got to get in there, and you get in there by doing things that are unexpected, interesting, a little titillating. Um, and that's how you get in. That's the old the salesman talked about door-to-door stuff, getting a foot in the door. That's all they needed, was not having the door slammed completely in their face. It can be slammed on your foot, but the door is still open. They can still hear you. You can still see them. You still have a shot. And yeah, so all of my advice is gathered around real salesmanship, the idea of actually selling from one human being to another. Even if there's a robot involved, it's still making a sale. That's going to be on a very human level. It's going to entail all the weird ideas and wacky notions people bring to the operation. They think that actors make up their lines in a movie. You'd be astonished. I worked in Hollywood for a while. You'd be astonished how many people in the world think that actors make up their own lines. They don't understand the idea of somebody writing a screenplay. It's like they think everybody gets together and they get the cameras out, they turn the cameras on, and then they act and they say their lines. And that's not the way it works. That's an obvious example of the way something doesn't work. But you can use that to your advantage too. If, like Jason and me, we have so much psychology in our background, get people to understand what a simpler explanation for what's going on is. And in copy, I like to say, if I deliver some scientific line or something that's kind of full of jargon or something, in parentheses, I'll say, in plain English, that just means, and then I'll just do it like I'm talking to the guy across the street from me when I was growing up, who was not the brightest cookie in the package. So, and again, I'm ranting.
Awesome.
I'm sorry for taking up so much of the time here. So.
Well, good. Next question. Johnny Brilliant Diamond. I think this is for Jason, but you guys probably going to have some stuff to say here too. How do you gain insights into your audience's personality? Because Jason was talking about it before with the segmentation survey. So how do
Yeah.
you do it, Jason?
Two ways. One, directly from them by asking. And that could be through survey, that could be through reply, asking for a reply simply. There's nothing really, my grandmother always used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And so for me, that's the first choice is to ask. So building up a survey, quick, usually, not like 45 different questions of various different demographics. It's really 3 to 5 questions that really get at the heart of the matter. And then asking for the reply. The second way is assumed. So, assumed meaning if I put out a piece of content that is a written piece of, it's a blog post, right? And I share a link to that in an email. Then the next day, I have a similar piece of content, but it's on my YouTube channel and it's a link to that video. I can assume that the people that click on the blog article are readers. I can assume that the people that are clicking on the YouTube video much rather watch a video than read something. And if I always look at that, there are different people that click on those different links. So you can be way more intentional about the assumption theory with your email rather than just, I could write 4 or 5 different emails from different angles based on the segmentation, based on the desires of my audience. Same message, same product, same call to action, but just different subject line and different stories that connect them. Then I know what their desires are, what their pain points are, what their challenges are, or what they want. It's an assumed desire for me. And I just track that. I track that through my email system, through either tags or custom fields or whatever. So those are the 2 ways. Ask, being direct about it, or 2, being intentional about the content that I'm putting out there and why I'm putting it out there so that I can get the information and assume their personality.
Good stuff. Tom, John, anything to add?
I thought Jason was spot on.
I love Jason's answer. Yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from another John, who is a 60-something business owner, lost his brick and mortar in the pandemic. Sounds like he's done some content creation. He's ready to launch, but he's unsure of the best model medium. He's mentioned VSL video. I guess if you're saying video, that must be a more normal, traditional video as opposed to a video sales letter or another way to present the message. Without knowing, I guess, what the business is, with that information that we have there, how would you recommend? What medium would you use to? Is there a default that you would go to, or does it depend on the market, the business?
Yeah, I would have to know what market he's in, what market he's in, what the competition is, what they're doing. One of the best, if you're going to bust into a market, say weight loss, for example, then you need to study that. You need to get the demographics of this down. You need to get the what the best practices are, and you need to know what competition you're up against. Any rookie trying to wander into a market like weight loss is going to get eaten alive because that market is full of sociopath marketers. People whose business plan is first 6 months, sell a whole bunch of stuff with ads that say a lot of illegal things, get sued, go to jail for 6 months, enjoy the holidays when you get back, start again with the same plan at the beginning of the year. And how do you fight that? Yep. And people keep thinking, I'm going to be the nice guy in this business. This really happened to me. I did lose weight. And okay, maybe you'll catch lightning in a bottle and that'll go through. But in an entrenched market like that, you're going to be eaten alive unless. But if you're determined to do it, go in there, get your nose bloodied, figure out, learn the lessons you need to learn, and keep watching what the competition is doing. Over time, you can figure it out. If you're going into a smaller market or a unique market or a sub market of a market, niche markets, it's kind of the same thing, but it will happen much more quickly. You can ask AI. I've done that. Ask them who else is in here. Who's going to be my major competition in this crocheting for money market? Who am I up against? How long they've been in there? And you'll have a list of people. Then you go contact them, get on their list, see how they do stuff. A lot of people, when they ask questions like this, they want an immediate answer or a trick or something. And it's really not. If you look at all the top successful marketers, not just the writers, but the marketers, they've all taken their lumps. And the lessons they learn from their mistakes, the lessons they learn from getting Um, I, I distinctly remember being at an event and I was watching three guys who were marketing on Facebook, I think. It was Facebook ads, or maybe it had something to do with Amazon. I forget, but they were doing so they had single points of where their ads came out, Facebook. They had single points of getting their product done, which was through Amazon, I think, and it was all single points. So that means single points of failure too. And somebody mentioned, they said, "You guys are all wealthy, you're doing really well. Why do you all look so bummed out?" And all three of them said the same thing. They said, this, all of my business could have been crushed during the time I was in this room talking to you guys. And it's happened before. They're capricious. The tech boys who run all these things are unpredictable. They change things in the middle of, change horses in the middle of the stream, all of this stuff. And so, have some basic chops. You can get that by reading, interviewing, hanging out, having some mentoring done. You can get that done, but then go out. And if you're faced with an idea of where do I go, what do I do, um, take the easy pass. I talked about the entrepreneurs with a simple, elegant idea that seems to resonate with a particular market. That's a really good way to start. So spend your time trying to find niche markets that aren't overpopulated with competition who are probably psychopaths and will do anything to make the sale and you go way past where you're willing to go to make a sale. And they'll sleep like babies that night because there's something wrong with them, but they tend to gravitate towards where the money is. So just know what you're doing. It's kind of like the analogy of you're going to go to a strange city you've never been before. You're going to walk down the street, and the first dark, long alley you see, you're going to abruptly turn and march straight into it. So you do that without any kind of prep, bad things can happen to you. However, if I tell you I'm going to take you to a strange city and I'm going to send you down the first dark alley we see, and I'm going to give you a month before we go do it, you can prepare. You can take
Yeah.
some self-defense classes. You can figure out who's hanging out, what the crime rates are in that city, what kind of people you might meet, what might happen. You can really bulk up and get going on that in a very short period of time. I said a month to prepare. It could be weeks, days. You can figure it out. And then you're not walking blindly into that. You're prepared. You have backup, and you may want to bring somebody with you who is a former special forces agent, and that would be the equivalent of bringing someone else into your business. Or that's what the whole affiliate thing is. You're affiliating with when you're doing packages like this, John. It's gathering people together, and the force of everything there is much bigger than it would be with just a single product. People buying them one at a time. So that's the brilliance of what the idea of the bundle is. And I don't know. Look at ways you can succeed rather than looking at ways you'll be challenged, especially when you're recovering from a blow, when you're at a weird point in your life, when you're not that experienced. There's room for everybody. A lot of people come from hunger and they think every dollar that Joe gets is the dollar I should have gotten or he robbed it from me, as a competitor. But really, just look at the weight loss market. There are millions and millions of competitors in there, and some are very happy taking a small slice. Others want the whole thing. And all that fight is constantly going on. And when I was working with Halbert, we used to like to sneak around the main battle and come in from the back door and sneak in and find out who's being underserved, who. When I did, I wrote ads in major golf magazines, and the people running the magazines begged my clients not to run these ads. These are full page ads in Golf Digest and Golf Magazine, a facing page and then an open split, all copy, no pictures, no nothing but copy. And we had based that on the letters we had mailed out to hot lists. And so the ad was tested and it went in there and it was my standard ad, how amazing secret discovered by a one-legged golfer things like that. And the magazine thought it was going to fail horribly. And it didn't because we didn't say, here's how Tiger Woods hits longer, straighter tee shots. No, we knew who read those golf magazines. It was duffers. It was guys who couldn't break 90 to save their lives. It was guys who went out for the love of the game, and all they wanted to do was have a couple of times each day where their buddies would say, "Wow, nice drive." They've never had that happen to them. So we marketed to those guys, and we sold the bejesus out of it. And when they realized 6 months later that my clients weren't going to take those ads out, they started trying to make the ads fail. They moved it to the back of the magazine. They tried raising the prices, and my clients just kept buying it until the ad got tired, and then either went to another one or eventually the ads I've written. I'm still making royalties, by the way, on those ads I wrote in the early 1990s. I get checks every month from the clients. Um, they're dwindling now, but those ads, by the way, just to make another point, went from being direct response mail, direct mail, to being print ads in magazines and newspapers, to being online copy for web pages, to being videos, to being scripts for videos. All, and they're being cut up and sent out in pieces as emails, and it's the same copy. The minor changes. If there was some dated language in there or something, but it's the same stuff. It's essentially the same ad from the early 1990s being sent to similar crowds. So
Hmm.
that was a
Uh,
tangent, wasn't it?
all good, all good. Tom said he has to go, but he did want to say one thing before he does.
Yeah. So first of all, John McIntyre, thank you. John Carlton, I could sit here all day and listen to you. Thank you. And Jason, awesome stuff. And thanks to all of you who are here. I saw one quick question about personality and copy, and I wanted to, on my way out the door, just note something that, yeah, personality and copy, weave in the amusing, the funny analogies, all of that. It's super, super critical. But one of the things with all the buzz about storytelling and being authentic and so on and so forth that you're hearing out there leads to all of these people who are are doing personality for personality's sake, telling a funny story, period. I call them personality blimps, thinking back to Dan Kennedy and using the Goodyear blimp as the example of branding versus direct response marketing. You tell a funny story, you show up with personality, but you don't connect it to any kind of meaningful promise. You don't have any meaningful lesson. You don't have any meaningful next step. Then all you're doing is flying a personality blimp in your content, and people may like you, people may remember you, people may open your emails, but they're not going to buy from you. And so it's really important to weave personality into your copy in the service of writing copy that sells. That's my parting thought. I got to go hang out with Ted Bedromo in one of those book club meetings. So thank you guys.
Tell I
Thanks,
said hi,
Tom.
Tom.
I will. See ya.
All right, so we are at 3:07 p.m., which well, I said we'll do it from 2 to 3. I'm happy to keep going. I can go up till half past. I don't know what you guys need to do.
Yeah, I've got
I
about
don't know,
five more
Jason, what
minutes.
do you think?
I've got about 5 more minutes, and then I have to hop off.
Sure. Okay. Have you got 5 minutes? Is there any question? Have you seen the questions, or you want me to just pick a random one and you can riff on it?
You can just go. You can pick.
What do you think about YouTube channels? Are they like magazines? Are they the new magazines?
I'll let
Have you?
Jason handle that.
um, I don't know. I mean, I am way more of a audio podcast type guy. YouTube for me, I guess, works well. Actually, I should say this: if I'm trying to be entertained or trying to learn something, maybe at a high level, it's more audio. Um, YouTube for me, if it works for the business, if that's where your customers are, can be super helpful because that's where your folks live. That's your quote unquote watering hole. Um, but to compare them to magazines, I don't know really how to do that, to be honest with you, because it's video more than reading, and those are two different kinds of people. So yeah, I mean, I look when I look at where do I find my audience, I try to find my audience not where I want to be, but where they are. Um, for me, all intents and purposes, to, what John said about me at the top is I try to find myself in closed communities of writers, of creators, of content creators, of membership site owners, those kinds of folks, because those are my customers. They're the ones that are doing email marketing. And so, do I like to necessarily be in closed communities and be a part of those things? Sometimes, but most times I much rather just, be playing outside, having a catch with my son, right? And so, I go where my business needs me to be to find my customers. And I try not to, make comparisons of what the next version of the old thing was before, right? Um, so yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but as far as watering holes and where to find folks, um, go where your customers are, not where you might want to be.
On the topic of
Our Jason, our I just was on a podcast with actual Daniel Throssell and um, um, my old buddy. Uh, I forgot his name. He's a good friend of mine. Anyway, the point is, we did the podcast, and we had it on Apple, but we also have it on with video on YouTube. And I thought YouTube was going to do very well, but it did a fraction of what's it, so people listen to podcasts, even though I personally like to watch them, like to see the interactions and the visuals that are important to me. So that was a wake up call for me that YouTube did not present a better. I think it's a better medium, but to me it loses out to Apple, and it makes sense. People are doing something else; they're listening at the same time, so that's the way it works, and that's a nice little piece of information to have. So, I'm wondering if people were asking about YouTube as far as it being like a magazine with the regularity of people seem to post with some kind of regularity. They're here every week or they drop every Wednesday. That would be the way I would do it. Some kind of predictable kind of dropping of shows or whatever you're doing. I'm not sure that that's the way people do it or not, or if they just wait and the algorithm will take care of it for me. And when I do pop on, YouTube knows that I want to watch this, so it'll bring it up or something like that. So,
I mean, YouTube is a search engine, right? It's the number two search engine out there. So for long, I guess, time to potentially show up in someone's feed, YouTube is by far and away way better than podcasts. This discoverability in podcasts is always tough. However, you will get your loyal listeners from podcasts. You will get your loyal customers from podcasts. Um, YouTube, I still haven't seen, well, I shouldn't say that. In general, very broad stroke, is not going to convert looky loos into customers like podcasts would.
okay. Kevin Rogers, by the way, is the guy who hosts the podcast that Daniel and I were on for 6 months or so. So, all right.
all right,
I would
cool.
just like to say if people here, uh, you know, as far as bonuses, I'm going to offer a Zoom call like this. They ask me anything. It'll be much more targeted. There were uh, uh, in the beginning of the year, give people time to read the book that I have in the bundle, and then I'm going to offer my time again. Somebody asked why I'm on here with 40 people. I'd rather spend half a day with, one or two top marketers or people interested in this than, 100 people who don't understand what I do or what the business is about. So, this is prime stuff for me. So, I do not give my time away readily, and the bonus here is going to be me giving my time away in a Zoom call. That should help you. You'll be able to ask me anything, and there won't be quite this many people, and you'll get personal attention from me. So that to me is the best kind of bonus I could ever think of because it was so hard back when I was starting out to get the ear or sit down with some of these guys who I wanted to mentor with or work with, the Jay Abrahams and Gary Halberts, and I got to work with all of them. I was really on a lucky streak. Um, but I tried to make it easier for the people coming up after me. That was my vow to the world was if I can make this work, being clueless as a freelance copywriter, if I can make this career work, I will spend time helping other people do this. This is my payback to the universe. So there's a lot of writers like this. So, the idea of being able to make money as a writer is astounding beyond belief to people who write because 99% of writers don't make any money. So that's what I got to say about that.
Okay. Well, no, Jason's got to go. What about you, John? I think we might have one question.
Yeah, I can stick around for another 10 minutes or so. Jason, it was great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you as well. And John, again, thank you very much for including me in the bundle and everyone here. I echo John's, statement. And just if anything I can do to ever help, my door is always open. Um, Email is always the best way to get that conversation going. And so I'm honored to be a part of this bundle with such brilliant copywriters. And, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And the takeaways here, I learned a bunch. So I can only imagine, sitting on the other side, just consuming all this information. So I appreciate you again, both John and John, and Tom as well, who bounced off early. Appreciate him as well. Um, have
And
a great
take
rest of your day.
advantage of what Jason just said. He wasn't kidding. Contact him. So many people know this, and it's intellectually they understand it, and they don't do it. You are exiting yourself voluntarily from the main population of successful entrepreneurs by doing that, by not taking advantage of that kind of networking.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Jason. Good to meet you, man.
Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Yep.
Yeah, I see Rick Harmon's on. Didn't see that. Rick, how you doing?
Oh, you know Rick. All right. There was a question about golf. If I can find it, I think when I
Was
reply
it?
to stuff, things disappear. One person did say one question was interesting is you probably figured out that some things matter more than others, which we could spend all day talking about that stuff. But maybe what are the most unexpected or counterintuitive things that matters that most copywriters or marketers don't know matter?
A lot of it comes from the psychology. The Kevin Rogers and I had an initial podcast for about 10 years ago. It was when podcasts before they had quite gone as popular as they are now. And we called it Psych Insights. And it was based on me doing some posts on, I think, Twitter and Facebook, where I'd say Psych Insight number 57. And I'd give a little piece of sales-minded psychology and let people chew on. And the things about when you understand even street level psychology, the pop psychology that I talk about, it seems simple and kind of surface level. It's really not. Most people don't have any common sense at all, let alone a life philosophy, let alone a way to handle embarrassing or challenging situations, either socially, business wise, whatever. They don't have the tools because they haven't encountered it, or they've encountered it a lot and they've run the other way every time it came up. So, yeah, the little tricks of having some psych or some basic level buyer psychology on your side is that you start to understand when you write something, how is that going to be processed by the average person in my audience right now? How are they going to take it? If your audience is loves pop culture, they know who Taylor Swift is. They've watched Friends all the way through 5 times, and in the background every day when they work, they got The Office on, on the TV. If you know that, you can use that kind of stuff. You can also challenge them through that. If you don't know anything about your market, then you're really flying blind, and that's not good. So then you have to start doing more general things. And that's where, if you have a client, say, or you are the client, you're going after a market, you don't know much about them, it doesn't take much to find out about. First of all, ask AI, go over to ChatGPT and just say, what's the demographics of the, and try to get as specific as you can. And then when you look at that for yourself, look at that. Do I know any people like this? Where would I go if I wanted to find a group of people like this? So do they spend their free time at bowling alleys or at Dodger games? Do they do they watch TV a lot? Do they read books? If you can start breaking that down, because book readers are a lot different than television readers in the way they process information. And guys who own private airplanes that they built, do-it-yourself projects and go up there have a different mindset on life than people whose idea of a really good time is to walk through the middle of Paris and stop and have coffee at a shop and watch life go by. And if you're able to put yourself in the position of those people looking out at the world, forget your own ego, forget your own life experiences, forget your own life philosophy, and get into what theirs is. Then you can start communicating from inside the prospect's head instead of coming from the outside trying to knock and get attention, because you can, in the very first words you say to them, you can say something that rivets their attention because they love talking about themselves, their hobbies, their ideas, their loves, their dislikes, things like that. That's why rage bait stuff works so well, unfortunately, is that people have certain things they get mad at, and if you can collar that rage and channel it, it works. I hate that that's the case. It tends to swallow up entire communities. Um, and but we're human beings. We got one foot in the jungle and one foot on the asphalt of civilization. And those 2 feet go up to different parts of the brain. They're constantly in battle with each other, turmoil. They're looking out. People are what's the most famous thing? Oh, fear and greed. One of the simple copy rules is, if you want to make sure you're going to connect with the fears and the greed of your audience. That's way too simple. It doesn't allow for any nuance. But firing a shotgun out there, that stuff works because everybody's got fears, and a lot of them have the same fears. It's almost countable on two hands how many fears people have, actually on one hand. And the greed part is just one thing. They want to be better. They want to be better than people they know. They want to be the brother-in-law who, when he speaks at a family dinner, everybody gets quiet. They want to be, there's power in having money. So I understand why greed. I'm not a greedy individual myself. Most of the top writers I've known throughout my career are not greedy, in the sense that there are a lot of people out there who have more money than they'll ever spend, their children will ever spend, or their grandchildren will ever spend. And still, it's like, what's motivating them to still want to get more money? But you're not usually going after those guys. You're going after the people who, what does greed mean? $100,000 to an average American is a lot of money, and it's chump change to other, to that 1% or the 2%. $1,000 is a life-changing amount of money to a great number of people. A lot of people will do something for 20 bucks that other people wouldn't do for $1 million. So if you can start thinking in terms of that, what is the what don't think if you don't like greed, and don't think of it as greed, but what is the motivating factor behind the power and the money that your audience needs, feels they need, or feels is that point where it's going to change their lives significantly. And then the conversation starts to just make itself happen. It's like as Jason said, the ask thing. Just get out there and ask. If you can identify some people, if you say, hey, I got relatives like the demographics I'm about to go after in this market niche, or in this ad, go talk to them, ask them things. Don't get in an argument, don't do anything. Use the classic Rogerian psychological principle of counseling, which is you ask questions and then you listen. Then you base the next question based on what they just said, and you're leading people to a conclusion in their own head. You're not influencing them. You're letting them tell you who they are and what they want and what's going on. And that's very easy to do. It's just ask questions and then shut up. Ask sharp, precise, pointed questions, but be interested and take your ego out of it. Everyone here should have murdered their ego years ago, by the way. What has your ego done for you lately except get you in trouble? Uh, there's no room for ego in good marketing. It's Stoics. Study the Stoics. Read Marcus Aurelius. Um, uh, he was one of the early Stoics. He was the emperor of Rome. Anyway, um, yeah, I go off on tangents on everything, John. But I even forget the question now. It was something about the psychology, or was that me putting that in there?
I think it was like, what's the most counterintuitive and unexpected
That will
thing
come
that
naturally when you
is
start
important?
doing these processes. Yeah, the counterintuitive intuitive stuff, and that's where the controversial, use infamy, challenge people, wake them up. You're trying to wake them up. So sometimes you can do that by agreeing with them, but agree with them coming in the side door rather than a frontal assault. It's be nice to them, and then say, I'll bet you think one, two, three things. You think these things about raising German shepherds. Well, I agree with you, and dot dot dot. You're absolutely wrong at the same time. And then you go on there. You've created some controversy. You're bringing them in, and it becomes second nature to you to say one thing. Don't invalidate what you said, but say, but there's more. But here's another way to look at it. But have you ever looked at it in the way that people who actually make money off of this look at it, rather than the way your neighbors, who are really nice people, and I'm sure I'd enjoy sitting down to dinner with them sometime, but they don't know how to make money, and you go off on that kind of stuff. So you're challenging. You got to keep them awake first, and then you got to get them motivated. So
Good stuff. Okay.
yeah, that's probably
One.
enough. That's too much for these people. You're not worth it. No, you
Okay.
are worth it.
We can wrap it up. I mean,
Oh
the
my
questions
God,
will just
people
keep
start,
coming.
yeah.
One guy's looking for a link, your affiliate link by the sound of it.
Uh, well, it'd be my email. If I don't know how much I can pitch here, John, but um,
Go for it.
my go to my blog, john-carlton.com. That's been a blog since 2006 or 7 or something. It's got authority on Google because it's been around uninterrupted for so long. There's all those decades worth of free blog posts, a lot of free stuff. But when you arrive on the first page, you can also sign up for my email list, and then you'll be getting emails from me. It's an email newsletter every week, about 3 emails, riveting stuff. And also when we do affiliate stuff like this, we will be making offers. So um, again, john-carlton.com. It's a nice place to go, and I hope you get lost in the archives there. They're all available, all free. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have the affiliate uh, link myself. So
Well, I could try and find it. I wonder if I could pull it up for you just so while we're here.
Jane would have gotten it from you, I think.
Yeah, she's probably logged in, so I can just jump into Thrivecart and I'll see if I can find it when it loads. View profile, and then we can grab the blue affiliate options. Here we go. Double check this is the correct one. JC007. Here we go. Just checking that it's loading in the right place. Here you go. There's your affiliate link. That's John Carlton's affiliate link.
Wonderful.
Good
And
stuff.
and and again, I know your ego is probably swelling, John. You should have murdered your ego, by the way, but your head's swelling. This is such a brilliant idea. I was thinking about different ways I've seen the bundling process happen before. Where did the genesis of the idea come to you for doing this?
I honestly can't remember. I think probably one day I was thinking about how can I, you know, do this more efficient? How can I just, make money with less time? I guess what we're all trying to do. And
But you made that connection somewhere. So
somewhere I've got this idea from the ether or something. I was like, oh, why don't I do this? It wasn't like I'd seen, I think other, I'm not the first one to do this, but I honestly don't know where it came from. I just one day I thought about it and was like, let's go do it. So,
cool.
and then
And you've
that
got it down
was,
pretty well too. So
yeah, now it's got a bit of a swing to it. I mean, I enjoy it. It's a lot of work to like set up the funnel and stuff, but the actual interacting with good people, um, I really enjoy that part. It gives me such a kick and gives me energy just to connect with people. So, yeah.
that's what I was saying about taking up Jason's idea of contact and stuff. The community within the general community, the networking that goes on. That's what live seminars were so important about. You'd be walking down the hallway back to the seminar, and in the hallway you'd see one of the former speakers coming down, and you could say hi. You could actually ask them a question. They were always open to talking. Friendships develop that way. Rick Harmon was in my mastermind for years. I'm sure a few other people here, and I probably have worked with some of the people here. Your network is always going to be the most valuable thing you have. Your network, then your list. You can rebuild a list. It takes a long time to rebuild a network. And opportunities like this, where people are saying, yeah, contact me, do things. By the way, there's ways to get a hold of me through the blog, by the way, and I actually respond to comments in the blog, so it's like personal stuff. Also, as part of the as part of our part of the bundle, we're going to include I think a year of the Marketing Rebel Insiders Club, which means you can talk to guys like Garf, Deutsch, me. You can do question stuff. There's all kinds of material in there. It's extremely inexpensive, but to get a year of it is fabulous. So contacts with people, networks, even if you're on the outside ring of the network, if you're not the bosom buddy of the people, being on the outside means you're often included. If you're on email threads, if or Facebook postings, you're one of the regular posters on that, or commenters, and stuff's going back and forth. That's networks are the most valuable thing. If I was going to keep one thing from my past in my career, it would be the network, because it's proved to be more valuable than like I said, than lists or anything else. So. And one of the common questions people have been tossing to me for years is, how would you start over? What would you do starting over in this thing? And it's an interesting thought experiment. It's a very different landscape than when I started my career. There were very few freelancers out there. It was never sold as a lifestyle product, or a information product, or a get rich quick product. But that's what it became when the web started coming out. People said, "Yeah, with copywriting, you can become rich really fast." And that always struck me as wrong. That's really not true. But knowing how to write copy can open the doors to riches, because it opens a door to everything else you do in life. Learning how to sell, learning how to persuade people. I say salesmen lead better lives, and by salesmen I mean writers, marketers, entrepreneurs, everybody, because you have to know the psychology of people. You have to know how people work, how they operate, what motivates them, what demotivates them. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I can't say enough about networking. You can't sell a networking product, because networking changes. The rules for forming your own network are very simple. Start talking to people, start taking advantages of opportunities to let yourself be known. Try to offer something. The one thing that somebody who is in a position of being sought after or famous, the last thing they want to hear is have somebody come up and say, "God, I think you're great, and you're wonderful, and your stuff kind of changed my life." It's like, okay, that's fine. Shake your hand, walk away. That's it. But if you come and you've got something to add or something. I tried your number 5 uh, program on my list, and it brought back a lot of money. And I just thought I'd tell you what some of the results were, and then that's conversation. Oh, well, what were the results? You use my stuff. I want to hear about this. And then you get savvy about this stuff, that foot in the door kind of thing, just getting their attention. At the seminars, I used to tell people to uh, hang around the bar after the seminar was over, because that's where the writers were going to be, the ones who weren't recovering. And they were welcoming. I remember I'd be huddled with Garfinkel and Deutsch and Kevin Rogers and Dean Jackson, and we'd be at the bar talking, and people would kind of hover around the edges. It's like, okay, I get it. You're shy, but this is your life we're talking about. There's no room for shyness there. Be bold. Don't be an asshole. But being bold will get rewarded much more than being a meek wallflower will ever pay off in your life. And you'll know if you try to be bold and you do it the wrong way. People used to come up to me and Halbert and I, at the hot seat seminars we gave down in the Florida Keys, we used to savage each other. Each of our goal was to make the other guy laugh so hard that he forgot what he was talking about on stage, and embarrass them. And if we could humiliate each other, that was the top of the lane. But that's me and Gary. We were friends. We'd worked together for years. At the breaks, people would come up and tell us a bad joke, or come up, Gary and I interrupt us and insult one of us, thinking that's going to bring them on the inside. That is really poor social skills there. Don't do that shit. Think about what makes people tick. If you haven't got a clue, go read uh, um, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a book written in the 30s. It's been redone by his family. I would get the oldest copy possible. The one I read was from 1936, I think. Go to the library, read it for free. Just read it once. You don't need to read it a lot. Take a couple of notes. It will tell you how to get over your own social problems. It'll teach you how to be able to talk to anybody at any time, in any way, ask any question you want, and get an answer, and be successful at having a interaction with another person. And there's often friendships that can, if you have something in common with that person. But don't try to bludgeon your way into existing networks. So that's probably a good place to end, don't you think, John?
Yeah, we can end any time. I'm just letting it go as long as you feel like talking. So yeah, you ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, yeah. So this was good, but I'm getting hoarse, and I'm going to start going off on tangents, and then I'll say something, and I'll have to ask you to destroy the whole thing because of the legal ramifications. So
So are you happy? I mean, I started the recording a bit late. I got a bit delayed there. So I'm going to, extract this, put this on YouTube, and then I'll put it on the sales page just in case, if people missed it or have questions, just another little trust builder there. Um, I think that's it. Thank you so much. It's good to chat.
that was good. That was one of the better Zooms I've been on.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, good job, John.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being part of the bundle too. It's always fun. So yeah, I'll thank you everyone who for coming too. Hope this was helpful. I don't know if we got to all the questions, but thank you anyway. And any questions about the bundle specifically, I guess you could email John, maybe. I don't know if he replies to emails like that, but you can email me because I'm running the whole thing. So if you do
You can
have,
reply to my email newsletter, and it will be picked up by my assistant. So
perfect.
yeah, you can actually reply to the emails. So
Okay. So reply to that, reply to me, send me an email, John at Drop Dead Copy. I think the email's on the sales page. Here to help if you have any questions before or after you purchase. So it expires at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. That's Eastern Standard Time, or when 349 people sign up. So it might be there on Sunday night. It might be gone by Saturday, Friday. Just depends. Um, that's kind of the logistical info. It's all on the sales page. Um, yeah. All right. I want to wrap it up here. Thank you again, John. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you in the inbox. Ciao.
ciao.